Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back with part 2 of 2 of What If Tanjiro Had Poison Breathing. Sorry for a bit of a delay. Some things came up, so I wasn't able to get the video done. But I'm back now with part 2 of 2. So if you guys enjoy, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And yeah, that's all I really got to say. I don't want to waste much more of your time, and I want to get right into it. So let's get it. Tanjiro Kamado is now with Rengoku, one of the main Hashiras, other known as the Flame Hashira. And they are there on the Mugen train to actually defeat whatever demons are going to portray themselves, at least here. And as this occurs, well, a demon would show up and Rengoku would show exactly what makes him so great as a Hashira, instantly defeating and killing the demon that would show its face. But that demon that showed up on the train would not be the last, because before you know it, the demon slayers would be put to sleep and basically put in these dream-like states where even Tanjiro is seeing a life with his family once again, a dream inside of a dream in some sakes. And it seems as if the idea of him being a demon slayer was actually just all false. All that stuff that happened before was just all false. That's until he realizes something, sees something, and smells something. He smells this kind of mist, this poison mist that begins to seep into the world, as if it seems as if Nezuko, and or kind of like Nezuko on the outside in her demon form, is having an effect. Now obviously he sees his family right in front of him, but seeing this snaps him back to reality and makes him realize that this right here is all fake. And when the poison seeps into his body, he would quote unquote pass or die, and he would snap back into reality, making it so that he realizes that he has to do something now. Not only does he have to cut through so many of these demons and protect a lot of these people that are on this train, but he decides that he immediately will go for the front of the train, where the demon that they don't know his name just yet, but is known as Enmu, is going to reside. And Tanjiro goes right after it, goes right after this location, actually filling up parts of the train with poison to slow down the demon and have the poison seep into the demon as well. And as it's doing this, the kind of power that was stretched out throughout the entirety of the train starts making its way on the idea of it really starts hurting Enmu that he spreaded the power so thin. Because when Tanjiro, faces off with Enmu and he faces him one-on-one, Enmu's already weakened, so much so that the poison is already having a massive effect. So when Tanjiro starts clashing and fighting with him, before you know it, Tanjiro already has such a massive upper hand before his own teammates, or, you know, Inosuke and Zenitsu and Rengoku are even awake just yet. And when Inosuke wakes up in general, Inosuke would be there to help him, and in one foul swoop, Enmu's defeat would be ensured, especially when the poison would start ticking and weakening him more and more and more. And with this happening, Muzan actually kind of gets note of this and thinks that this might end up being an issue. Tanjiro might be an issue, and there's a reason, and well, he's glad that he ended up sending someone that is very powerful to get rid of him. And that is Akaza. He sent Akaza, Upper Moon 3, and Tanjiro only can watch as Rengoku will clash and clashes over and over and over again with the insane demon known as the Upper Moon Akaza. Now, obviously, he wants to do something, trying to help, but he knows that he can't really stand toe-to-toe with someone like Akaza, at least not yet. He's not prepared enough, not kind of known enough, but what he can do is infect him. That's all he can do. If he can somehow get the poison over toward him, that could truly change things forever. So he immediately would try to do this. All he needs is one slash. All he needs is one take, and that's what he gets. But when he lands that slash, when he jams his sword into Akaza, Akaza would proceed to slash one of the arms off of Tanjiro immediately. Tanjiro's in shock, thinking, no, I wasn't quick enough to move. This can't be happening. But Rengoku would push Akaza out of the way and strike him toward the neck, and he could see as Akaza is actually slowing down. Even so much so that his regeneration is almost gone as well. And Tanjiro made such a difference, but sacrificed one of his arms in the entirety of it. His arm completely gone, and now only able to utilize a singular arm, or his right arm. Is only able to utilize his right arm. And as this is occurring, and as all of this is going ahead, it seems like Rengoku is getting the upper hand against Akaza because of how much the poison is actually affecting him, closing that gap and that distance. Akaza believes that he needs to take down Rengoku now, like eliminate him, get him out of there and kill him before anything else continues to ensue. But as this is happening, the sun would slowly but surely rise, and Rengoku would sacrifice himself, put his blade into Akaza, jamming it into the ground, holding him still, as Akaza would put his hand straight through Rengoku, ending him swiftly. But as the sword stays within Akaza, he's too slow, too injured, and too kind of, has that poison all throughout his bloodstream, to the point where he's unable to do a single thing and unable to stop anything from happening, being defeated and being killed right then and right there. Everybody that is watching, Inosuke, Zenitsu, Tanjiro. Yes, Tanjiro is a little bit out of commission for the most part because of, his whole arm thing, and, the fact that he's trying to maintain the fact that he doesn't want his blood to, run out for the most part. He doesn't want to die, so he's trying to focus on that. But Inosuke and Zenitsu are watching, as not only does Rengoku pass on, but Akaza does as well, as the sun cripples and destroys him, making him nothing at all. And when Muzan sees that Akaza doesn't report, and he senses and can see that Akaza is no more, his own mind would be in shock, believing that whatever that kid did, whatever happened, was able to even cripple and slow down one of his strongest demons, and that is a little bit worrisome. Now, as the group is taken back and basically put on like a recovery, Tanjiro begins training, preparing, and also just getting used to the fact that he is literally missing an arm. And on top of that, Tanjiro even would go out and meet with Rengoku's father and Rengoku's brother to learn more about sun breathing. And as he learns more about sun breathing after all of his rehabilitation, after his kind of training and preparation and all this stuff to get him prepared with fighting with literally one arm now, well, he starts going on simple missions. Nothing crazy, nothing insane, but it's pretty obvious that he is progressing in terms of strength, power, and all that stuff. But he still is now missing an arm, and makes him, well, let's just say, a little bit less capable to the degree that he wants to be, in terms of actually kind of cranking up the his ability to do what he believes he can do. But there's one thing that he starts working with, and that is working with Shinobu, basically injecting himself and inhaling kind of, or eating or ingesting the things that she is ingesting, other known as, well, wisteria or something along those lines, something that could help them. And he believes that it could affect his poison even more. But if all else fails, he'll do what he has to do. And he even tells Shinobu that all it takes is for Muzan and the rest of the demons to be gone. That's what they need. They need them to be gone, and then they could truly do something, in which she agrees. She believes that everything it takes sacrifice, and she honestly respects Tanjiro so much more, the fact that he is willing to make that sacrifice, in which Tanjiro, of course, agrees and believes this to be true. And him, Shinobu, and Lady Tamayao would eventually start working together, just a little bit, nothing insane, nothing crazy, but just a little bit working together throughout this time, leading up until Tanjiro is actually put on a mission with Tengen, kind of by force, because, you know, Tengen was going to take 2 other people that weren't really prepared or really could handle themselves. So Tanjiro would go with Zenitsu and Inosuke, and his capabilities and his strength and his ability as a demon slayer, yes, put him at a point where he could definitely handle himself even with 1 arm. And on top of that, when he faces off with Daki for the first time, his poison does one hell of a job, allowing him to slow down Daki and even affect Gyutaro, who is still within Daki, and make them far weaker than they would normally be, allowing for a fight, yes, with a 1-armed Tanjiro, but also with Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Tengen to be a lot smoother, a lot easier, and at least the Tengen not getting as hurt as he would have, but he still wants to retire and believes he should retire because of the words of his wives. And of course, Tanjiro would continue pushing and continue training throughout this time as well. And he would continue kind of recovering even from the fight that they just had against Daki and Gyutaro because of all the damage that he was going to take anyways. But on top of that, they were able to see something out of Nezuko, see another step beyond her power, a form that they didn't know existed, a demon-like form that allowed her to be even stronger, even more powerful, and even more capable. Something they weren't expecting, but something that is more welcome than you could imagine, especially with Tanjiro missing an arm and believing that his days are not necessarily numbered, but his best days are numbered. But he still trains. He recovers at the Butterfly Mansion, training with the likes of Shinobu, even getting some reps in with Giyu Tomioka, trying to learn some techniques that Giyu has learned as well. Something that he really wants to get into, but something he will add on to in the near future as well. But that's not the end of Tanjiro's training. His training would lead him to the Swordsmith's village to not only, repair his sword, but to also get some training in with the Yorichi Type 0. And with only 1 arm, it makes things very difficult and very, very hard for him to kind of push himself to the degree he wants to. But luckily he was here. Luckily he was prepared, because the poison breathing that he has, the abilities he has in terms of poisoning the demons, is more than capable of defending himself, Nezuko, Genya, and Mitsuri against Hantengu, who shows off a multitude of different forms. A multitude of forms that a lot of them are in shock about, because initially, Muchiro would just slice the head off the demon, and that's it, right? But no, that's not it. That's not at all it. There's so much more that he does, and he begins spitting out, or basically changing or adding different forms, and these forms are more deadly than the other. But as their heads are cut off, as more and more are cut off, time after time after time, eventually they would stop at this one singular demon, one that is shocking in itself, and one that is more powerful than all the rest, the manifestation of hatred. And this version of him begins to send these earth-like, like serpent snakes, or whatever you want to call them, maybe even dragons to an extent, at all of them. Mitsuri fends him off to an extent, and Tanjiro looks for an opening. All he needs is one singular kind of stab, a direct attack that would force them to kind of poison / kind of slow him down like they did to Akaza. And eventually, after a ton of fighting, they would do just that. But Tanjiro would take a hit that would be brutal, to the point where he can't really keep up anymore. And it's up to Mitsuri to do her best to kind of, try her best to help out or do whatever she has to do. And luckily enough, with the slowing down of the demon, the rest of the demon slayers that are there are able to hunt down the final manifestation of Hantengu and look to take him out. The manifestation that if they cut off that head, then it's over for the demon. Tanjiro goes hunting for it, but he's so weakened at this point, so tired, so exhausted, especially with his lack of ability to keep up to a certain extent. He tries his best to get to him, but he can't. Not until the sun is rising and the demon is trying to kill actual people, and Nezuko is out within the sun, and he has to make a choice that he needs to do something. And he ends up throwing his sword directly at the demon and collapses to the ground, stabbing the demon in the back, and it slams him into the ground, and the poison begins to take over, slowing him so much that eventually the sun would catch up to him, and the sun would burn him into nothingness. And as this occurs, as the sun would do its work, Tanjiro would turn behind him, and he would see Nezuko burning up as well, but eventually she would stop. The burning of the sun would stop, and she would be fine. She has conquered the sun. Nezuko Kamado has conquered the sun. And everybody around, well, they're standing there in complete and utter shock and awe, but that's not the only thing. They're in shock the fact that she not only is living, but she has now essentially pushed them into an era where demons can truly be immortal. And it's a scary thought and a scary thing, but the work on kind of getting a cure for her is now even in full effect, to the point where Tanjiro, yes, he's training and goes through Hashira training with everybody, and even trains heavily with Giyu, believing that the form that Giyu has created, known as Dead Calm, is something of main importance for him. And as all of this training goes on, as he pushes his body to his absolute limits, eventually he would continue his works with Shinobu, with Lady Tamayao, and they would cure Nezuko, or at least make the cure and believe it is available and ready. And eventually he would have his face-to-face with Muzan, his face-to-face with the king of all demons, Lady Tamayao, standing there with him, and he would go in to strike Muzan down. And as he would go to strike him, Muzan would go for the kill, but out of nowhere, the Stone Hashira would come out of nowhere, landing a crucial blow to the head of Muzan, obliterating his head into nothingness. But obviously Muzan can regenerate his head, regenerating it, but that's not what the point of this was, not the point of what they were trying to do, because out of nowhere, Lady Tamayao would grab onto Muzan and would basically begin allowing herself to be absorbed within him, and more or less making it so that all this poison, wisteria, the cure, all of these things would start seeping into Muzan. But on top of that, Tanjiro is not done yet, because he would go charging in at Muzan, slashing into him, and doing the same thing with Lady Tamayao, as he basically is allowing himself to be absorbed. But that's not the only thing he's doing. He slows down his heartbeat to practically nothing, and all he's thinking about is water breathing. Final form, Dead Calm. But this is not it. This is not the only thing that's happening. He's utilizing Dead Calm as a way to not only get close and, well, obviously surprise Muzan, but also absorb so much more poison within to his own body while it's not actually killing him, making it so that his heartbeat isn't going super quick. His body isn't going to absorb the poison the way it can, but once it starts beating faster, and once he gets close enough to Muzan and it starts pumping once again, in which Lady Tamayao is ready to help him with that specifically, once his heartbeat starts pumping again and he's getting absorbed by Muzan, the poison will start spreading quicker than anything has ever done, and Muzan will start feeling the true effects. With Akaza already dead, and with Tanjiro being absorbed, and with Lady Tamayao sacrificing herself as well, it seems like Tanjiro and Lady Tamayao will make their sacrifice, and their sacrifice will not be in vain, because Muzan will be defeated this day. Muzan will be defeated because of Tanjiro, Lady Tamayao, and obviously Shinobu's help, but it doesn't mean that Tanjiro will get to see the day end, and Tanjiro won't be able to get to see the new day rise with the sun overhead and Muzan burning to a crisp, because eventually Muzan would be killed, but Tanjiro would be dead long before he could see the rise of the sun. But all that matters is the sacrifice. All that matters is that Muzan is defeated, and all that matters is that this world will now be safe, with some Hashira still living and able to live out their lives, at least for the tiny bit that they have. At least they can continue on and still find solace in this normality that is ahead of them. But without the sacrifice of Tanjiro, none of this could have happened, and even the sacrifice of a demon themselves, Lady Tamayao. And with Tanjiro passing on, he knows that his little sister Nezuko can still live her life as a normal person and a happy one as well. But with that said, that is the end of this story, the end of what if Tanjiro had poison breathing. And if you enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.